where he wants to differentiate between the caste and the class. And B.C.A is so disgusted in this novel. B.C.A, he believes that English people are blaming Indians. It is a cycle which never ends and which never stops. Posh, posh, keep away, posh, sweeper coming, posh, posh. Hello, hi, namaste and welcome to Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. I am Nandakishore, Faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, MYSURU. In today's session, I am going to discuss the themes from the novel Untouchable, prescribed to third semester BA and BCA students. And let us straight away get into today's concepts. The very first theme is you are what you wear. Mulkraj Anand has beautifully used the dress code, the attire, where he wants to differentiate between the caste and the class. Clothing plays a pivotal role in Untouchable. During the beginning of B.C.A.'s day, clothing is used to differentiate the many men that come out to use the latrines. The Hindus are naked except for their loincloths. Muslims are distinct from Hindus because they wear long white cotton tunics and baggy trousers. This is very important. You see here in this novel, Mulkraj Anand, he gives a clear description about the people's appearance, the way they are dressed. B.C.A is a weapon in the hand of Mulkraj Anand, and through his eyes, he wants to convey or to reach the readers and to give the glimpse about the pre-independent India. He is not only talking about pre-independent India, he also talks about the social stigma, the social evil called untouchability. Using this, he says that B.C.A, being an untouchable, has never got a chance to present himself in a good way, or maybe the way he wanted. One should understand that he was always fascinated by the appearance of Tommies, the English people, and somehow he manages to get a hand on the overcoat which he wears, but still he looks so gangly there, he looks so thin. Though it is loose-fitting, he somehow presents himself, but yet onlookers who are watching B.C.A, who is trying to sweep and clean the latrines, they have a sort of split or dual thoughts about B.C.A. Apart from B.C.A, if you look at here, B.C.A is so angered at Hindus or Hindu priests who usually go out in the nature, who go out in the fields, who wants to relieve themselves, who will just clean themselves. The dress code, it is very important here. So looking at all this attire, one could easily recognize who is an untouchable and who is a Brahmin and who is a Tommy and who is who and what is what. Next one is rejection of Indian roots. This is very important. The rejection of Indian habits and social customs is a central idea of Untouchable. The novel Untouchable. And you can see that Tommies, they always told these words to people who came out in the fields and they wanted to go and relieve themselves. Kala aadmi zameen par aagne wala, black man, you who relieve yourself on the ground. The presence of Salvation Army, which comes later, but this one is very important here. Why? Because Tommies, the English people, they always believed that it is not a good thing to come out in the fields or to go out in the nature and to use the field as a latrine, as a toilet room. And B.C.A is so disgusted in this novel. B.C.A, he believes that English people are blaming Indians or maybe their customs, their traditions. Then they have a point in saying so. B.C.A is a staunch, he is a blind believer of European customs and traditions, and especially being in the British barracks, colonies, trying to be there and trying to know their appearance, the way of living, B.A.C.E.A is so much impressed. He believes that using the flush toilets is also one of the ideas where we can reject the Indian roots of using a man for cleaning the human waste. So maybe this idea, which is later spoken at the end of the novel by Iqbal Nath Sharsha, who is a poet, he discusses the idea of installing this flush toilet system. That is why B.A.C.E.A is so fascinated about British customs. Next one is class struggle. Class and caste play a role in every interaction B.A.C.E.A has over the course of his day. Intercaste inequality is not only about personal interactions, it is fueled by a set of rules that limits the lives and rights of outcasts, particularly the untouchables. In this novel, it is clearly seen the struggle of the oppressed class, the subaltern. There is no particular class, there is no particular caste for them. The only caste they know is themselves, the untouchables. Though B.A.C.E.A is very well aware how well to maintain his distance from other class people, the class struggle here, we are talking about other class people. And in one of the incidents, we get to see B.A.C.E.A trying to buy the sweets, jalebis, and the sweet vendor cheats him. And since B.A.C.E.A is an untouchable, he has no rights to question the sweet vendor about his misdoings. In the other incident, where Sohini is molested by Pandit Kalinath and Sohini comes out of the temple running towards her brother, crying, B.A.C.E.A is triggered. He is instilled with anger now. His blood is boiling and is so helpless that he can't go and oppress. Maybe he can't even go to Pandit Kalinath and raise his voice. The struggle is clearly shown, clearly depicted in the novel. Mulkraj Anand, he shows that B.A.C.E.A is not an ordinary guy. He is not an ordinary boy who sweeps the streets, who cleans the latrines. He is very ambitious, he is very bold, very brave, very powerful, but still he is confiscated, his ideas are shredded, his feelings about living a better life is always damaged, dented, hampered. There are a lot of incidents which take place in this novel, which hampers his feelings, his hopes of having a better life in future. Every time he tries to do something good and something bad happens in return. He goes to Ramcharan's sister's marriage and there he has to face Ramcharan's mother who chases him out because Ramcharan's mother, Gulabo, who believes that she is higher caste woman compared to untouchable B.A.C.E.A. Again, the oppressed. The incident of merchant, the Hindu merchant coming and brushing against B.A.C.E.A, where he slaps and he is a bit afraid. What would I do? Because there is a big crowd surrounded and he is literally scared and is struggling so much to make a way for himself because he cannot run away from there. He cannot touch anybody else there. That would lead to furthermore problems in his life. He goes to the hills along with Ramcharan and Chota, and there when Ramcharan tries to give some chocolates, some sweets to B.A.C.E.A, B.A.C.E.A resists. B.A.C.E.A rejects, asking Ramcharan to throw some sweets at him rather than putting his hand into the kerchief and taking the sweets by himself. He says that all of these incidents have been lingering in his mind, and that is what led, or that is what stopped B.A.C.E.A from putting his hand into the kerchief. There are a lot of other incidents where B.A.C.E.A is humiliated, Sohini is humiliated. Even Laka, the father, was humiliated when B.A.C.E.A was on his deathbed. He almost lost B.A.C.E.A because he was not allowed to enter the hospital to inform or maybe to beg the doctor. But once when he runs out of the option, ultimately he ends up entering the clinic, the hospital, and for his luck, B.A.C.E.A is saved. Next one is charity. Charity occupies an interesting place in the world of Untouchable. The outcasts are dependent on the charity of higher castes for fresh water, food, clothing, etc. So one should understand the very first scene where Sohini goes to fetch water from the well. There are a lot of people, oppressed people, they are waiting for somebody from the higher caste to come and pour the water into their pitcher. So this is clearly seen here, charity. They need help from the upper class people. And B.A.C.E.A has no money to buy what he wants. And somehow he has got out of the court. And again, on the other hand, when Charat Singh early in the morning comes and scolds B.A.C.E.A to come and clean the latrines, initially B.A.C.E.A is a bit lazy to get out of his bed. And after accepting to clean the latrines, Charat Singh promises B.A.C.E.A that he would be getting a new hockey stick. Again, it is a sort of a charity. And in this well scene where Sohini is outcasted again, she is pushed out from the group, and looking at this, Pandit Kalinaj is a bit fascinated, bit attracted. And he is the one who calls Sohini first and pours the water into a pitcher. Charity. And if you observe this novel, it is clearly left to the perception of readers. It is told that even to dig the wells for particularly to the oppressed or outcasted people, there is no sufficient funds. And from where will they get these funds? From the upper class people. And even the charity which we see that, the Salvation Army, the Christian Salvation Army, the Colonel Hutchinson, he comes to convince B.A.C.E.A and tries to convert him towards Christianity. It is a sort of a charity where Colonel Hutchinson trying to convince B.A.C.E.A that there is a better life you can lead and live, yes, only through the help of conversion. You need to convert yourself. It is a charity, and it is going to happen only through me and because of me. And I am a Christian, and you can always have a better life if you would like to convert yourself to Christianity. Cyclical oppression. The suffering of the outcasts is cyclical, generational, and perpetual. It is never ending. The life of the outcast is cyclical, not only because it is perpetuated by corrupt interpersonal dealings, but also because it is generational. Now, what is this cyclical oppression? This cyclical oppression where B.A.C.E.A is an untouchable, his father is an untouchable, and his grandfather was an untouchable, and his forefathers were untouchables. And so will his next generation. It is a cycle which never ends and which never stops. So B.A.C.E.A, no matter how much he struggles to better his life, to lead a beautiful life of his choice, he starts questioning the status quo of the upper class people. He starts questioning himself that why are we treated like this? Why are we ill-treated? We are treated worse than animals. Is it just because we are untouchables? And he never finds an answer for his question. As a matter of fact, throughout this novel, there is no answer which is found either by the novelist Mulkraj Anand or by any characters for that matter. They never find answers, and all these B.A.C.E.A's questions, it is skeptical and is always in dilemma. He keeps questioning himself in every step he moves and looks around. So it is never ending. It is infinite. Mulkraj Anand, he wants to convey to the readers, this will end. That is why he brings Gandhi at the end of this novel to give a sort of an answer. Only one of the questions. What is it? How well to lead a better life? By changing your clothes by dressing up neatly, by not eating the food from the ground, from the waste place, from the dustbin. Or maybe you can lead your better way of life. The best way is to dress up neatly, to appear good in front of other people. The next one is the untouchables responsibility or burden. This is very important. Deeply intertwined with the themes of class struggle and cyclical oppression is the idea of the untouchables responsibility or the untouchables burden. Why Mulkraj Anand is concentrating on this burden or responsibility? He clearly shows that B.A.C.E.A is trying to handle his responsibility of cleaning, sweeping the streets and cleaning the latrines. In the very first few pages, we get to see that B.A.C.E.A is an ideal boy who has taken up the responsibility of his father and is trying to manage. And later on, keeps questioning the status quo of the upper class people. He never finds an answer for that. But as the novel progresses, we get to see that B.A.C.E.A has to maintain the responsibility along with the burden. What is that burden? Burden is to give a call. It is a sort of a responsibility and burden as well. Posh, posh, keep away, posh, sweeper coming, posh, posh. It is a responsibility because that is what is told by the sweet vendor when the Hindu high caste, right, merchant, the Hindu merchant who comes and brushes against B.A.C.E.A, who slaps and walks away, and the sweet vendor calls B.A.C.E.A and make B.A.C.E.A realize that it is your responsibility, it is your very own duty to give a call. What is this call? Untouchable call. B.A.C.E.A should also maintain the distance from other upper class people. He should make sure that he is not going to touch any upper class person where he will end up being in problem. Religion, it is one of the main themes here. Religion is the thread that connects all of the themes in Untouchable. Anand uses clothing to separate the Hindus from the Muslims, from the Christians. Clothing is done. Now, the class struggles between the different caste levels and the cyclical oppression, the outcasts' experience is rooted in the hierarchy Hinduism created, as is the need for the higher caste to be charitable. Now, this is very important. In simple, religion, if you look at religion in a broader way, one can understand that religion is not just between four varnas here. Basically, it is deep-rooted even between the subcastes. In the very first place, Sohini goes to fetch water and Gulabo is a washerwoman. She is just a bit superior compared to Untouchables, though she is not from any Kshatriyas or Brahminical society or Varna. But Gulabo is such a character. She believes that she is very superior, she is a bit egoistic, and she thinks that Untouchables are always the subalterns and they are never going to flourish in their lives. There is always the clash. And as the novel progresses, we get to see high caste person, the priest, Pandit Kalinath, who belongs to Brahminical society, Brahmin Varna, voluntarily voluntarily touches Sohini and molests her. But here, the theme of religion is not so important. Why? Because whenever the upper class people, they wanted to do something for their pleasure with lower caste people, the religion wouldn't matter for them. But it does matter when a Hindu merchant, high caste merchant, comes and collides, brushes against B.A.C.E.A. It did matter. And he says that he had just worn new dhoti, a new clothes shirt. It is not soiled, but it is the touch which has defiled him. And he slaps B.A.C.E.A and walks away from the scene, telling that I need to go home and take my bath right now. On the other hand, in the contrary, we also see Charat Singh, where he is not into social stigma of maintaining the distance between or amongst the people of Untouchables. He is a real hero, the real hero here, who calls B.C.A to his house, who invites, actually he lets B.C.A to go inside the kitchen to get the coal, which is quite shocking to all the readers here. And he is the hero who gives the hockey stick to B.C.A and inquires about his good health. As the novel progresses, we get to see that Colonel Hutchinson, about religion, right? He talks about Jesus and how well B.C.A has a chance of leading his life in a good way. Religion. So each and every step in B.C.A's life, this religion is a sort of a thing which keeps playing in his mind. It plays with his emotions. It tries to manipulate his mindset. And finally, he ends up believing that yes, only through flush system of toilets, this religion barriers or social stigma of untouchability would eradicate. And he knows that it is not going to happen very soon. It is sort of split thoughts, dual thoughts here. He thinks, yes, it might happen very soon, but he again questions, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen very soon or not? So that is about the themes of Untouchable novel. So this is it for today's session. I'm going to meet you in my next session. Until then, have a good day. Take care.